What's up? I'm Marcus Seidel. Today I'm going to be shooting a video here with my friend Nadia Wyatt. Nadia is currently 10 days out from the Arnold Classic. And I just want to make a disclaimer before anybody gets the wrong idea about anything. Nadia is not a client of mine. She's actually doing her entire prep herself and is going to be a force to be reckoned with at the Arnold in about a week and a half. So look out for her. I think she's going to be bringing home a gold medal of sorts. And this is my best friend here, Bruce. He'll probably be in most of the videos because he doesn't really like to leave my side. His sister Macy's lazy. She likes to stay upstairs and sleep. So anyway, today I wanted to do a video basically demonstrating kind of a variation that I like to use with hack squats. I think the traditional way of using a hack squat is great, and there's definitely a place for it. I still do them this way most of the time. Not most of the time, but sometimes. But I think people who really want to focus on growing their quads more so than any other part of their lower body, I think there's ways to kind of improvise and keep more tension directly on the quad. I'm going to use Nadia today to do some demonstrations just to show you the different variation that I'm referring to, as well as a comparison of that variation to the traditional way of doing things. So traditional hack squat, we'll just get right into it. So you're gonna have your feet a little bit high on the platform. That way when you come down, your leg is basically gonna make about a 90-degree angle. So if you can pause right there. We don't have a lot of weight on here, and she's really strong, so we can trust that she can hold this for a while. Anyways, notice that her legs are making about a 90-degree angle. All right, you can go up. So again, fantastic for the quads, but when your leg's making a 90-degree angle with the tension just distributed the way that it is, your hamstrings can still get involved, glutes can still get involved to a point, not much on a hack squat, but they still can. Quads are definitely still gonna be a primary mover, but you can get a little bit of help from those other muscle groups. So while it's good, I think there's a way that we can do things to keep tension more directly on the quads. So if your training is focused on arbitrarily just growing your lower body in general, if you call it a leg day and not a quad day, doing it the way we just demonstrated is fantastic. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to give anyone the wrong idea in thinking that what I'm saying is that the variation I'm going to show you is the only way you should be doing it, because that's not what I'm trying to say at all. So this is still fantastic, still really good for the quads. And one thing that I will say is that doing it this way, you can use a lot more load. The reason you can use a lot more load, a lot more weight, is because you are using more muscles than just your quads. It's not as much of an isolation movement. You are going to bring your hamstrings and glutes into it a little bit more, and because you're using more muscle, you can move more weight. So the variation I wanted to show you is, I'm going to use this board. I actually literally just got these boards, a couple different boards cut for this exact occasion, as well as the fact that I'm going to be using it, obviously, with myself and with clients. Just a standard 2-inch, it's like I think this one's 2x8, and then, I had it cut to the width of my hack squat. But anyway, what we're going to be doing that's a little bit different, just to show you the variation, and Nadia will demonstrate in just a second, is we use the board to elevate your heels. So when you elevate your heels, basically it's going to shift the momentum of the tension forward and more so on your quads. Quads are in the front of your body, so if your tension is shifted forward, you're going to have more tension directly on the quads. So that's the purpose of having the heels elevated by the board. 2, the board actually, the other purpose that the board serves is that it makes you know exactly where to place your feet on the platform. So your feet are going to be much lower on the platform, and that's going to be another reason why the tension is going to be distributed more directly to the quads. So one other thing I want to address, just kind of a side note. I think most people have heard that when you're doing any form of a squatting motion, whether it's hack squats, leg press, traditional squat, etc., at least I've been told this, and I think most people have, you hear, don't let your knees go past your toes. So when you're squatting, people say, like, don't let your knees go in front of where your toes are. I think the purpose behind how that got started is so that when people legitimately, like, barbell back squatted so that they didn't go down in this motion like this, because that is putting an absurd amount of tension on your knees, which is not the point, and it's not putting a whole lot of tension on the muscles that you're actually supposed to be training. However, it's completely arbitrary. Your knees going past your toes is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, especially in a case like this where the form is controlled and everything, what it's actually going to allow you to do is recruit a lot more muscle fibers, because it's going to be a much further range of motion, as you'll see when she does the demonstration. So again, feet are going to be much lower on the platform, heels elevated, and you're going to come all the way down as far as you possibly can. So go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. Just do like 5 reps. Good. One more. Okay, you can rack it. So just a couple cues. Matter of fact, come all the way back down to the bottom. So the bottom portion of the movement, if you can tell, obviously because her feet are lower and her heels are elevated, there's a much smaller gap between her hamstring and her calf, so you can see that there's a much greater range of motion there at the bottom, and you're actually getting a lot more stretch at the bottom of the motion on the quads themselves. So you can come back up to the top. In doing that, you're actually going to recruit a lot more muscle fibers, because you're training the muscle through a lot longer range of motion, as opposed to if your feet are higher up on the platform. The heels elevated probably adds, I would guess, probably an additional 2 inches based on the height of the board to the range of motion as well. So those are the 2 main reasons: increased range of motion, better stretch, well, I guess 3, and then more muscle fiber recruitment by doing so. So the question everyone was going to ask, and that these guys asked me before we started the video, is what if your gym doesn't have a board available to do the heels elevated? And another thing that I brought up is the fact that even if you have a board, some hack squats aren't set up this way where a board is going to fit well. So you can still do this exact same movement without the actual board. So what's going to happen when your feet are this low on the platform and you come with that extremely low range of motion, or that long range of motion, I guess I should say, you're not going to have enough dorsiflexion in your ankles / calf to stay on your heels anyway. So if you start at the top of the movement on your heels like you normally would, as you come down, you're going to see that once our dorsiflexion ends, our heels are going to come up anyway. So it's really probably right at about the exact same amount that it would be if the board was there to begin with. So it's basically the same thing. Go ahead and do a couple more of those just so people can see, so everyone can look at your crazy quad. So you can see the heels come up on their own anyway. So I guess one last cue that I will give you guys is I think that I get, for myself anyway, and I do this with clients as well, I think if your heels are close together, feet kind of ducked out, and keep your knees in line with the direction that your toes are going, I think that's another way to really keep as much tension on the quads as possible, as opposed to keeping your feet straight and your knees going straight. So do one more just so they can see how your knees are staying in line with your toes, and then get a shot where like you can see kind of how close together her feet are and everything. Perfect. Do like 3. Bruce is super intrigued by your form. Okay, cool. All right, one point that I definitely want to add in just before people start using this for their own training is you're going to be distributing a vast majority of the load directly to the quads. You're not going to have your hamstrings and glutes to really help out with moving the weight as much as you would on a traditional variation of a hack squat. So you're definitely going to want to start out with a lot less weight, because you're not going to be able to handle nearly as much weight doing it in this way. To be honest with you, it's fairly challenging without any. And every hack squat's gonna be a little bit different in terms of the actual amount of weight you're gonna be able to use. But I would definitely start off light, and I think you'd be surprised how much weaker you're gonna feel doing this, because it is distributing a vast majority, if not all of the load directly to the quads, as opposed to using all the other muscles, you know, that could possibly come into play by doing it with your feet higher on the platform. So again, definitely start off light. Definitely want to work your way up to where you're using a substantial enough load to create hypertrophy. After all, that is the goal, is to grow the quads maximally on a movement like this. Otherwise, there's really no other function. So you definitely want to use substantial load, but definitely start light and test out the movement before you start adding a bunch of weight. Pretty much it. That was the only thing I really wanted to demonstrate. Hopefully you guys got enough information to where all that made sense for you. Special thank you to Nadia for helping out with the demonstration today. She actually trained legs yesterday. So, you know, I was really tempted to load this up with weight and make it really hard for her, but I decided I'd be nice. But yeah, so thanks to Nadia for helping out. Thanks to Bruce for increasing the cuteness of the video exponentially. I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, comments, if anyone wants to argue with me about it, we discussed that. I like to argue, so if you want to do that, leave it in the comment section. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I want to get a picture from like a side profile of the difference of the bottom position. Yeah. Doing them this way versus with your feet up on the platform like you would normally. Yeah. So I think if you shoot from like over here, like at that angle, yeah, have your whole body in it.
Yeah, I see what you want. Yeah, I have that.
Let's leave it out first, and then we'll put it in if we need to. Is this a good place to stand?
I'm gonna make it look good wherever you stand. So.
All right. I guess this is a good spot.